Hello. So we've talked about mistakes and how to navigate making mistakes, especially through the idea of turning your mistake into something else or enhancing your drawing or piece of work, your piece of artwork, to kind of incorporate that mistake so that it will blend out. We talked about that, but I want to talk a little bit about why some of the mistakes we make we can get rid of some of those. We can completely eradicate them. And a lot has to do with how your brain works and the decisions you make visually. I'm going to go back really quick to a theory. It's that left versus right brain theory. Back in 81, there was a study that started because there were some people that had massive seizures, and these grand mal seizures were very hard to deal with daily. So they went in and had surgery where there's a connective tissue between the two hemispheres of your brain called the corpus callosum, and this tissue was severed so that it would cause that brain to settle down and the person could actually live a pretty functional life. But they did find that there were some interesting things that happened. They did a lot of study on it, and they found that generally speaking, the left brain contained a lot of your logic, a lot of your language, and the right brain contained many spatial and emotional information. Also, it can, I'll write emotional, and visual. Okay, now, you and I haven't had this severing process go on. Our brains are highly, highly connected. So one's not really dominant over the other. You know, we have a very whole brain experience. So even though we can talk about right brain, left brain, let's just understand that in general, the left does aid. The right is mostly in charge of this visual piece that we're dealing with. But when you get the left in here, you've got this logic side, and logic and visual sometimes do not help each other out. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of this, and this is what I want to talk about briefly right now. So let's look at what that could look like. I see this in children a lot. They will make a coffee cup, let's say a coffee cup. So you and I should be able to make a coffee cup somewhat like this, right? I'm going to kind of, okay, so maybe the coffee cup looks like something like that. But you'll see some people will draw the coffee cup like this. Like that, right? You've seen this, I think. This is your logical decision, whereas this would be more a visual decision. A logical decision says, I understand that the rim of that coffee cup is completely circular, so they will draw a circle. And I understand that the coffee cup has to sit on a flat surface, so I will make that line flat. And I'm right-handed, and I will make the handle here. So what you're left with is, I don't know, something that kind of looks like a French fry box from McDonald's with a piece of wire on the side to hold it onto. This drawing is not going to satisfy even the logic side when it looks at it, or the visual side, and it makes sense, but it doesn't make any visual sense. This is that there's like a little mini battle that goes on inside where your left brain really, and again, I'm generalizing and I understand there's a lot of connectivity, but anyway, even if I'm just going to call it left, and let's say this is the analytical feature of your brain versus the visual spatial components of your brain. These two can be at odds with each other. Another one I just adore, I see this with kids, and I remember making this decision. You might too. Remember when you had to make a chimney, and here you have your house? And of course, I have to laugh. You know, we always make houses that look like this. This is a very logical decision, right? It's got a triangle on the roof, and here I'm going to just incorporate my overline. Okay, I've got this roof here, and of course then I have my house that's a complete rectangle. This is a logical decision, except I have to laugh. I live in Rambler. My house actually looks like this. Oh, well, anyway, so when you're a kid, you tend to draw the chimney like this, right? And of course, it's a chimney. You have to let everyone know that. So you're going to put a lot of smoke coming out of it. You see these kids, but it's so funny. It looks like an army tank. It's the army tank house, blasting cannonballs out at the neighbor. It doesn't look like a chimney. This isn't what happens. The chimney, if we were actually really to think deeply logical, we know that the bricks go all the way. Here's your little hearth inside, and the chimney, the fireplace, goes straight up through the house and comes out the house. That is how it's structurally built, but a child doesn't really know that, nor do they think through it. All they're faced with is this visual decision they have to make sense out of. And we know that bricks are flat and they lay flat, and so they're going to lay flat against that roof, which is why you're sticking a chimney up out at a diagonal, not straight up and down. And straight up and down is the correct decision. I so vividly remember being like in 4th grade and making a chimney like this and thinking to myself, that doesn't look right. And then I put the chimney up this way, and I remember looking at that diagonal line and thinking to myself, this looks right, but this makes no sense. But because it looks right, I'm going to just go with it. And I made my little bricks come out, and my chimney looked fine. But again, I had to actually give myself permission to make that diagonal bottom. I didn't know why this made sense visually, but I knew it did, and so I left it. And that's going to happen to you time and time again, where you're going to have that decision you have to make, and you wonder why on earth it is right, but it's right, so leave it. So this is the decision between drawing what you know and drawing what you see. What you see. Okay. We also like to make symbols out of things. Again, we like to make eyeballs that look, I just love these eyeballs. We make it look like a football. We might even just get a little bit of a rim on that eyeball, and then we always make the eyeballs really big and circular, and this person is about to be hit by a car, and they are in such panic mode that their eyes are just freaking out. Or hands, I know I have a thumb, and I know I have a first finger, a second finger, a third finger, and a fourth finger. And I don't know about you, but that's a bulbous wrist. I don't walk around like this. My hands, I don't go walking, and when I walk, I keep my hands straight. Our hands aren't straight. Our hands are cupped and curled when we relax. And so a hand that looks like that makes total sense. If you're going to about get hit by a car, you're freaking out. But if I'm just walking down the road, I'm not going to have an eyeball like that and a hand like this. It's going to be relaxed and curled. And I have to start drawing how I see it, not how I know it. So that's a combo in here. This is just for fun to add on top because you've been so patient. This cracks me up. So you see this picture, you and I, we can make sense of it, but visually, if you were to turn it around, it's very different. It's very different than what you thought it was, right? So if you wanted to draw her, if you drew her upside down, I will guarantee if you were to draw upside down what this looks like, when you turned your drawing around, it would look like that. Okay? We'll talk about this more in class, but I just want you to see what your mind is doing. Your mind plays visual tricks on you. It tries to make sense out of something, and you have to draw what you see and not what you know. This just shows that your logic brain doesn't do a good job. It doesn't have good eyesight, basically. So you want to always, and we'll talk about value shapes and how to capture images and in drawing. But anyway, I hope that gives you kind of, one more time, just a little bit of a rundown as to actually what's going on in your head. You are facing logic decisions versus visual decisions. And if you come to a point where you fight yourself and you have saying, I don't know why this is right, but it's right, go with it, okay? If you just draw what you see, don't draw what you know. All right, so that's it. We'll talk later.